What up? What up? What up? This is Mr. T at Mr. T Do Numbers, and this is my comparing decimals anchor chart slash lesson. All right. I'm gonna teach the basics of just comparing decimals. This is probably at a fifth grade level. Um, so to compare things, right? Um, if you're a basketball fan, you always hear the comparison between Michael Jordan and LeBron James, right? And oh, Michael Jordan to go, oh, LeBron to go, right? And there's comparison between their stats, right? How many rebounds per game? How many assists per game? How many points per game? All right, what's this average? What's that average? Well, those are decimals, right? That are being compared, right? So that's an example, a real life example of when decimals are being compared. To compare something means to measure up one thing against the next to see if, which one's greater or which one's less than, or if they are equal. All right. Now, a simple way to compare decimals. Step one: put all the decimals that you're comparing in the place value chart. Then add zeros if necessary. You say, Mr. Tran, why would it be necessary to add zeros? Well, sometimes you have numbers where you're comparing hundreds and then you're comparing it to thousands, or you're comparing tenths to hundreds or tenths to thousands. So they're not the same place value spot, right? So if they don't end in the same place, then they don't have the same value, right? So what you want to do is add zeros and make them all hundreds or all tenths or all thousands. Make them end in the same place so you can really see the value of each one. All right. Step two, you're going to compare the digits from left to right. The reason why you're going left to right is because the left side of the place value chart, the hundreds, the tens, the ones, if you're going from left to right, you're starting with the big size place value. See, if I got more dollars than you, it doesn't matter if you have more cents than me. All right. Step three, you're going to insert your comparison symbol, less than, greater than, or equal to, into the problem. All right. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to give you a problem, and I'm going to use those three steps. All right. So let's say I have 2 and 367 thousandths, and I'm going to compare it to 2 and 37 hundredths. All right. Step one, put all the decimals in the place value chart. Add zeros if necessary. Well, what I'll do is I'll draw my place value chart. Right. Now here's a shortcut on my place value chart. I'll draw my lines. I'll put my decimal point right here. And instead of writing the word ones, I'll put the number 1. On the other side of the decimal point, instead of writing tenths, T-E-N-T-H-S, I'll write 1/10. That's the fraction version of tenths. Then I'll do the same thing with hundreds. 1 over 100, that's hundredths with a TH. And lastly, 1 over 1,000. That's thousandths, right? So these are my representative place value spots. All right. Now, 2 and 367 thousandths. 2 is in front of the decimal point, so 2 is in the ones place. 3 is in the tenths place, 6 is in the hundredths, and 7 is in the thousandths, right? So that's my first decimal. Now you would want to put the decimal you're comparing it to in the same place value chart right under it. So here I have 2 and 37 hundredths. Well, the 2 is in front of the decimal point. The 3 is in the tenths place right behind the decimal point. Then I have a 7 in the hundredths place. All right. Now, that's step one. I put all the decimals in the place value chart. Now, I'm going to skip adding zeros if necessary. I'm going to come back to that and show you how crucial it really is. So for now, I'm going to solve the problem without adding zeros. Step 2, I'm going to compare the digits from left to right. Again, my ones place is bigger than the tenths. Tenths is bigger than the hundreds. Hundredths is bigger than the thousandths when it comes to place value, how much it's worth. Right? So I'm going to start at the biggest place value that I have, because if the number over here is different, it doesn't matter what's happening on the other side. Right? So if we look in the ones place, we see 2 wholes, 2 wholes. So in the ones place, they are the same. So we move over to the tenths place. Well, I have 3 tenths and I have 3 tenths. So far in the tenths place, they are still the same. Now, if I look in the hundredths place, I have 6 hundredths and I have 7 hundredths, right? Which means 6 hundredths is less than 7 hundredths. Now, what that's telling you is that if you look in the hundreds place for both decimals, the decimal that has the 7 is the greater number, because 7 hundredths is greater than 6 hundredths when both of these other bigger place values are the same number. So you go back and you'll find which one has a 7 in the hundreds place, because that's the bigger number. So step 3, insert the comparison symbol, less than, greater than, or equal to, into the problem. So again, I look at, okay, I'm looking for the one with 7 in the hundreds place and give a greater than symbol to that one. So this is a 6 in the hundreds place. This is a 7 in the hundreds place, which means my comparison symbol should open towards the 7, which also means that this is read 2 and 367 thousandths is less than 2 and 37 hundredths, right? So what you have here is step 1, when you put them in the place value chart. Step 2 is when you compare the digits from left to right. And step 3, when you place them in the comparison symbol. Right? Now, all of this could have been simplified if I would have just done what was in red. So let me show you how important adding the zeros if necessary are. Right here, I'm comparing 2 and 367 thousandths to 2 and 37 hundredths, right? So a common misconception is some kids say, oh, Mr. Trahan, 367 is bigger than 37. So 367 must be the bigger number. And then they just write the comparison symbol going this way, and they're totally wrong. The reason why they're totally wrong, I want to reiterate, is because you're comparing thousandths to hundredths. And if you know, the definition of place value is in a certain spot, how much is a number worth? So if you're looking at a number in the thousands place, it's not going to be worth the same as it in the hundreds place. So adding 0 makes you compare thousandths to thousandths. So when I add this 0, I'm no longer comparing thousands to hundreds. Now I'm comparing thousands to thousands. And like I tell my students, you can literally see the answer jump off the page. Because 2 wholes and 2 wholes is the same. But if you look at the part side, 367 thousandths is not as big as 370. So the bigger number is 370 in the thousands place. So you can, by adding that zero, you literally can see the effect of comparing the numbers when you're comparing thousands to thousands. All right. Again, this is Mr. Traham, and this is Comparing Decimals. Peace.